So our next speaker is Babak Akhgar and Saskia Bayerl from CENTRIC. Wait for me, the Center of Excellence in Terrorism, Resilience, and Organized Crime Research. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you.
Right. Good afternoon, all. In the next 7 minutes or so, Saskia and I are going to go through one of our key seminal projects around artificial intelligence and accountability principles. Before I start, a very brief introduction about who we are and what we do. CENTRIC, established in 2011, if I'm saying correctly, yes, in collaboration with a number of law enforcement agencies to bring research into operational reality. Currently, we have something in the region of over 100 million euro research-related activities around artificial intelligence and policing and security, specifically focusing around counter-terrorism and national security, child sexual exploitation, precursor to explosive, and also serious and organized crime capabilities. A couple of our projects which we're going to use the result of them today and discuss and share our outcome with you are mentioned in CENTRIC website if you are interested. We are not a commercial body. CENTRIC governing board and advisory board consists of a UK Home Office, a number of law enforcement agencies and other security agencies. The project which we're going to talk about today is called AP4AI, Accountability Principle for Artificial Intelligence. It's a project which we are jointly coordinating with Europol Innovation Lab in cooperation and collaboration with 5 EU Justice and Home Affairs agencies, Eurojust, EUAA, Fundamental Rights Agency, CEPOL, and EU LISA. The aim of project is to establish canonical set of requirements which law enforcement agencies can use when they deploying artificial intelligence as a capability. We have done a ground-up research in order to underpin and create our accountability principles. We talked with over 6,000 citizens in 30 countries, which my colleague Saskia are going to take you through the result of that consultation. We ran 12 extensive workshops with the stakeholders from high court judges to CT counter-terrorism specialists, child sexual exploitation specialists, to see what are the baseline for creating and establishing accountability means. And then one of the key aspects of the project we have created, accountability, is a very abstract concept. What does it mean in policing operation? If I'm deploying a face recognition capability, how do I demonstrate to our citizens that I'm deploying this capability in an accountable and lawful manner? And in order to establish that, we went through the whole set of processes which outlined in this slide. Discussion with the expert group, citizen consultation, and then deployment of the applicable framework and tools for deployment. I think with that, I can pass the mic to Saskia, and I promise all my colleagues I stick to the time frame, so I managed to achieve something at least today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As Babak already mentioned, we did quite a number of consultations with different stakeholders, and the first stakeholders we, of course, are considering is the citizen when it comes to law enforcement usage of AI. The reason being that we hear a lot about trust in AI, and law enforcement often is kind of a low trust area when it comes to citizens. So the first thing we try to do is to understand when and why would citizens accept law enforcement usage of AI, and what would be the considerations of them to trust police forces, and how would accountability need to look like. So just giving you some highlights of the consultation to say, well, in the end, if you look at general acceptability, in a lot of areas, citizens are quite positive towards the usage of AI, if they are very, very framed towards important issues like counter-terrorism, like protection of children. Also, we had a very interesting result where people said, well, actually, we also want police to use it before crimes happen. So predictive policing, we found 70% of our citizens that we consulted said yes. we should use it. Quite interesting. But when you dig a little bit deeper, you will also find they have very, very concrete pointers and concrete requirements to say this is how you need to do this. So we can't go through all of this, but it's basically around the idea about can we question police forces? Can we get enough sufficient information to say what's the purpose of this? What did it lead to? And what happens if something goes wrong? And I think this is what accountability for us is very important, in addition to explainability and trustworthiness. What happens if things go wrong? So the question is how we can give police forces something at hand for them to upfront, not when something happened, but upfront, to establish what are the procedures and the risk assessment and the steps they need to take. So when we talk to our experts, the question was how can we get accountability in something very practical? Because accountability is something very, very abstract. Everyone talks about it, but no one really knows what it is. So this was one step we took to say what is actually accountability? So we need to make it accessible, and that was one of the main steps we had to take, and it was quite a lot of work we had to invest with our experts to think through this. The next one is, of course, when is accountability relevant? And we think, well, accountability is actually relevant across the full AI lifecycle. So not only to thinking about the design or procurement of a system or deployment of a system, but what happens if you change an AI system? What happens if you migrate from one system to the other? What happens if you retire a system with all the data and the procedures, et cetera, et cetera? So we need to look at accountability throughout the full lifecycle. And then also, as I said, it's very, very important to have this practical application in place. So one way we're doing that to make it very, very easy for police forces is to offer them a tool, an online tool where they can go through very specific questions towards all of these principles. So accountability for us, we broke it down into 12 different principles that make it fairly straightforward to address certain elements of accountability. So for instance, transparency, or are all the legality, all the laws in place? Do we have a commitment to collect robust evidence about the usage of AI? Is there a learning organization in place that if something goes wrong, actually can feed this back to the organization, and we can actually change things in terms of procedures, in terms of the knowledge, in terms of the system. So that's a very, very important thing. And then going from there, we need to make it even more accessible and running people through very, very specific questions. So we broke this down into very concrete questions that are then implemented in this tool, where you just run police forces through and say, how are you in this situation on transparency, for instance? Are you doing this and this and the other? And they can say yes, no, partially, where are you? So it's a very simple way to say, you're fine, you're in the green on transparency, you might not be as good on a learning organization, you certainly have to work on your explainability. And this also helps in a way, it's like a training tool also for police organizations to run through this in advance, for instance, of a deployment, and to learn as an organization together, how are we positioned on this issue. So I will leave you with that.
Thank you, Saskia. I got literally, I think, 20 seconds. So I use this 20 seconds to announce today is a very historical day. Can anybody say what day it is? Oh, my God. Thank you. It's the beginning of the Persian New Year, so happy Persian New Year to those who are celebrating Persian New Year. But for those who don't, everything Saskia and I mentioned here is go back to the foundation of policing, which Sir Robert Peel in 1829 outlined. Our entirety of 12 accountability principles grounded and enshrined to Robert Peel principles. Please do come and see us. We are on the stand 8 on the first floor. All the statistical data which Saskia mentioned, the tools and capabilities, we are not a commercial entity. We are more than delighted to share it with you and use the outcome of our research. Thank you, and I stick with my time. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.